Yo, welcome back to my channel. Listen, it's been a minute since I sat down here and talked to y'all, but y'all, let's get into it. I turned 35 on Valentine's Day, February 14th. So it's been a little minute since I sat down here and talked to y'all. And I had a really good birthday. I went to Washington, D.C., and I spent Valentine's Day and my birthday with a beautiful young lady. And it's crazy because I had this whole thing that I used to say, and I said it in the last video, that I've never really had a good Valentine's Day, but now I can cross that out and cross that off my list because Valentine's Day was good. My birthday to this day, I think this was my favorite birthday ever. I went to go see Pink Sweats. I love Pink Sweats. Like, he is one of my favorite artists. He was dope. And then the next day was Valentine's Day, my birthday. Went on a date with the beautiful young lady, went to go see DC. It was amazing. I didn't get to do a whole lot of sightseeing because I picked that trip at the last minute. But yo, I'm happy I went. Like, my birthday was good, and your boy, I turned 35. Let's get into it because I've been wanting to do this video since I turned 35, but life has been going on. I've been busy. What do I really feel about turning 35? And this video is going to be more so for me than it is going to be for y'all. This is going to be more like a live documentation, a live documenting, just a real live journal entry of how I really feel. You know what I'm saying? And I think at every point in your life, as you get older, you should be asking yourself those questions. Like, you should be asking yourself, you know, whether you turn 35 or 25, whether you just turn 20, whether you just turn 60 or 40, you should be, assessing your life, asking yourself the questions of where am I? Where do I feel about where I am? What do I want? And just since turning 35, that's what I've done. I've just stopped and asked myself, I had a good birthday. You know what I'm saying? You could always have a good event. You could always take a trip and do something. But what do you feel, not so much about the day and the event, but what do you feel about this new age? What do you feel about coming into this new space in life, right? And I had a lot of thoughts, and it's crazy because I literally built a really good community and a growing platform on TikTok. And it's crazy because I went viral, so many times talking about love, and even on here I've talked about how I want love, how I really want a relationship. But on TikTok, more so, I built a community of people that follow me because I have, I'm on there talking about how I really want love and just my journey of, getting to my next relationship, just my journey as a single solo Christian man. And, a lot of people enjoyed that journey of me living my life, you know what I'm saying? Not being pressed about a relationship, but just living my life as a solo Christian dude, single dude, right? And it's funny to me because I'll get somebody that'll be like, oh, I started following you on TikTok because that one viral video you did about love, or that one video you did talking about relationships. And it's crazy I think about that because the very first viral video that I've ever done on the local TikTok, as I call it, was a video about me talking about how much I hate the 9-to-5 structure. If you really know me, now if you don't know me and you were to assess, my life and what things that I say, because that's the only way you would know me, by the things that I put out and things I say, you would say this brother here, he really desires love. He's a hopeless romantic. He's a Christian or hopeful romantic. He loves Jesus. And on the top of his list of what he wants, he wants love. You know what I'm saying? If you really know me, one of the things that I have always shared the sentiment of is the fact that I just do not believe that I am called to the 9-to-5 life. And as I come into this age of 35, I was asking myself, Mark, what is it that you want? What is it that you're desiring? We know that you want marriage, you want love. Sure, you want to travel, but what is it that you really want? And it just came back around to the same thing at 35 that I was saying at 25, is that I just want freedom. I just want freedom of time. I want freedom of talent. And in so many words, I just want to be able to create a life of myself where I break free from the 9-to-5 life. And it's funny because the very first video that was semi-viral that I did on TikTok, back in 2023, I said in that video, I was like, y'all, I just feel like we're at work too long. I just feel like we are at work so long? Like, do we have to spend 8 hours out of a day away from our families, away from our homes that we're paying high rent for, away from the people that matter to us most? Do we have to take a big chunk of our day doing something that we would not do for free, doing something that do not fulfill us? And so I remember putting a video on TikTok, and one of the things that people kept saying that I highly agree with is because I have a 70-year-old aunt. I have a 70-year-old aunt, and you can't come to my aunt who is 70-year-old and talk about you tired, talk about you don't, you know what I'm saying, you hate the 9-to-5 life, because that generation, they don't understand it. They're used to working. They're used to living to work. You know what I'm saying? They're used to that whole cycle of, just getting up every day, going to work, living for the weekend, being where on the weekend, coming home, feeding the kids, then getting up and doing it all over again, dropping the kids off at daycare. They're used to that. They don't want to know nothing else, And so my aunt has this thing where she always say, I remember one day I had a job, and it was like my first week of the new job training. And I'll never forget, I was talking to her, and she was like, how's the job? I was like, it's good. I said, I'm just tired. It was a Friday. I had church. She was like, tired. Y'all generation so lazy. And I was just like, what gets me is the misconception of the previous generations. They think that we are lazy. And it's just like my generation. I don't think that we are lazy. I just think we are realizing that this 40-year-old 40-hour work week is outdated. Is outdated for us. We have not revisited this since 1940. And I did a little bit of research on it. And I realized that at first, I guess the work day was, and if you're a historian, correct me, drop facts. Listen, I don't have to be a historian to know that this does not work for me. But I'm just telling you what I read. So I first read that at first the work day consisted of 12 hours, and then they, protested and they went on strike for 10 hours, and then they dropped it from 10 hours. And I think in 1940, they settled on an 8-hour work day. So out of 24, you spend 8 hours at work. It was supposed to be 8 hours at work, 8 hours for leisure, and 8 hours for sleep. That's how they expect you to spend your time. Like, why haven't we revisited this? And I go back to that point about with my aunt and how the previous generation, a lot of them feels like, oh, y'all just lazy. Y'all just don't want to. And it's funny because when I did that video and it went semi-viral on TikTok a couple years ago, where I was talking about the workday just being so long, almost everybody around my age kept saying the same thing. We don't mind working. Like, we would settle for the same pay or more with just 4 to 6 hours a day. 4 to 6 hours a day is doable with the same pay. But of course, you have to factor in the fact that we need to make a livable wage. You know what I'm saying? It just brought me back around to this whole thing of just, I don't like it. And I never have. This is not something that's new for me. This is not, and I began to realize this is not something that was like, well, I just don't like my current job, or I just don't like my old boss. I just don't like my current boss. Like, every job that I have ever worked, one thing about me is I'm a good worker. I'm there on time. One thing about Mark is that if Mark don't have a job, Mark gonna bounce back and find a new job. That I have always been that way. I've always been a hustler, paying my bills. I've always been that. But that doesn't mean that I'm fulfilled. That doesn't mean that I like it. And so I have always been this way. Like, I remember at 25, like working at a call center and just every day answering the phone like, welcome to Fifth Third Bank. Like, every day I just would be like, there's got to be something more. You know what I'm saying? There's got to be something more for me. And it has nothing to do with a job. The job that I had in 2023, I was making the most money I've ever made. Working at a job in 2023. I loved my coworkers. My boss, she was just, at the time, she was just the most professional and just the most people person ever. Like, she was so for the team. Loved her. But I hated being there. I used to come home after work, and at that time I was trying to do music. I was trying to gig, and I was trying to, I was just starting out to be a content creator on TikTok and trying to structure. And it was just, by the time I got up in the morning at 5:30 to hit the gym, went to work for 8 hours, came home about 5 o'clock, got in my car, came home about 6. I didn't feel like doing anything else. The only thing I wanted to do was sit down, scroll, or watch a couple TikToks, and by the time you know it, your body is like just winding down, so you really don't have the energy. Like, and that's why I envy those parents that can just get off work, go home, cook and clean, and then or they go grocery shopping, or you go to your friend's house and you go hang out a little bit. I don't see how y'all do it, because after work, all I want to do is sit down and chill. Don't nobody call me. And at the time, I had my old car, so my aunt would call me, like, hey, can you take me to the grocery store? And it would just be regular. It would be frequent, like 2 times a week. Or somebody would call me, hey, can you give me? And I would be like, after work, don't call me. Like, after work, I don't want to do nothing but go home and binge watch a show, scroll on TikTok, and just watch YouTube. But then I began to think, that's how they get us. I don't want that life. I don't want that life where I'm living to work. I'm literally living to work. And I remember I have always had this feeling about the corporate world. I'm not gonna lie. It makes me so sad, because I have always felt that there was a bigger life that I was called to. So if you was to ask me, well, Mark, what do you want to do? If you was to ask me, like you was to ask a 10-year-old, Mark, what is it that you want? What do you think your life should look like? I posted a meme I think I did post it on YouTube Shorts, but I posted a meme on TikTok and on Instagram where I talked about, like, if it was up to me, the number one thing I would want to do is I would want to relocate. I have always wanted to relocate from my city. And just a little backstory. Last year, I had a prophet prophesy to me that God was calling me to this particular city. I'm not going to say what city, but he was like, this is a city that God is calling you to. Around that time, I had applied for a job in that particular city, right? I got hired. And they were going to move me to that city. The job was going to move me to the city, house me for a month. I was excited. I was like, oh my God, my dream of relocating is finally coming to pass. And I'm not going to lie. Something happened. I made a little mistake. Something happened that was out of my control, and the job fell through. And that's a whole nother story within itself. I was sad at one point. I was down, depressed. I had to move out of my apartment at the time. I had to move back home for a little while. Life got really bad, got caught up with a girl, got my heart broken. Everything went downhill. Now I'm back reestablished, and, everything I have a fresh start, and, everything I have of course I got another job, all of that. And a few months ago, I tried to do the same thing in that city, and I was rejected. Oh, I was sad about that. But anyway, if it was up to me, I would want to relocate from my city. Number 2, I want to make money online. Like, I love being a content creator. I love selling, my cologne oils. I want to make money online some way. Also, I want to be on the road. I want to be on the road as it relates to music. I would love to, be either a background singer. I would love to be in urban theater, such as like David E. Talbert or like Tyler Perry. I would love to do something like that. What causes me to be alive is performing on stage. That's what I want to do. I want to be in those circles and networking and be in those circles where I'm, making a livable wage, not being rich, but just a livable wage off of the arts, off of online, just e-commerce and making money online and all of that. I want to do that. I want to be on the road. Like, that's what causes me, to come alive. You know what I'm saying? I have always had the dream of that. I've always had the dream of acting. And I look at my life now, and it's just like, at 35, 3 of my friends are established. I don't know. One of them is doing what he loves, and they are married. 3 of my friends, 2 are married. 1 just got engaged to his wife. One just got engaged to his fiance, and I have another, like an associate, who literally just called me this week. He's cool, he's my brother. And he proposed to his girl, and we're all around the same age. And I just be like, man, maybe it's too late. Maybe I should be on the journey of, finding love and getting married. And that was one of the things that I've always dealt with, because I remember being with my ex-girlfriend. And I remember just being 23 at the time, and she was pressuring me to like marry her. She was pressuring me to marry her. Like, we got to get married. And I remember telling her, I was just like, listen, I don't want to get married right now. And she had a cousin at the time. We were like 24. She had a cousin that was like 30 or 31. And he had like 3 kids. And I remember, let's say his name was Richard. And I remember telling her, I said, I'm a dreamer. I was like, I'm a dreamer. I was like, I have all these dreams of just, being in the arts and being on the road and, doing content, making money online. And I was just like, I said, my biggest fear would be like your cousin Richard. I said, because Richard is he's 28 or 30, however old he was, and he's married and he got 3 kids. I was like, I don't want that life just yet. And even at 35, like, yes, I want a relationship. And yes, I really do want to meet a nice young woman of God. And yes, I do I've thought about fatherhood more times than not in the last 6 months. Like, it's crazy. But at the core, I still feel like there's something that I still have not been fulfilled in on my own, which is breaking away from the 9-to-5 life, which is the arts, which is, doing ministry on the road, which is, moving out of my hometown. Those are things that I want to do, because I know somebody's going to say, well, just do it. And what's holding you back? What's holding you back? My biggest thing is not knowing what I want to do, but knowing how to do it. I heard a quote today where I literally heard this preacher say today, I'm filming this on Sunday. He said, you do what you know to do until you know to do more. And I feel like that's my biggest problem. Like, I don't know how to get there. I don't know what things to try. I don't know, who to link up with. And I don't know the strategy on how to get to the dream life that I want to break away from 9-to-5. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how to get there. I've had this same desire at 35 that I had at 25. And I have done some things. Like, I have, created a lane for myself in my city where I have gigged and made money and, things like that. But to do it on a bigger scale, I just don't know how to get there. And so I do know at my core, though, relocating is one of the things that I need to do. Right now, I will say back in 2023, I was laid off from my job. I was working a job, making the most money that I've ever made at that time, right? And I remember just being laid off from my job. And it's crazy because I would come to work every day like, oh my God, I can't do this. We're at work too long. I don't want to do that. I'm not fulfilled. I hate this. I just want to sing. I want to do music. I want to do content creation. I want to sell online. I want to be on the road. And I remember just having those thoughts. And I remember my boss came in. And I never forget this. I was working there for 2 years. She came in and she was like, hey, guys, turn your laptops in and don't take your laptops home this week. Bring them back. If you took them home, the company's shutting down. And I just remember everybody. And y'all saw my video when I talked about being laid off. Everybody was just like, oh, my God, what are you going to do? What we got? And I just remember my first thought, I would never forget this, was thank God, because I get to sleep tomorrow. Kid you not. I would never forget, like, just feeling like, oh my God, I get to sleep tomorrow. And I think about that season in my life because the only regret that I have is the fact that I felt like I didn't steward that time well, because I remember I didn't go, I mean, I kind of did, but I really didn't go like back into looking for another job. At that time, I started driving for Uber full time. And I was driving Uber for full time. And I remember during that time, just looking back on the time, man, I went straight into, because I wasn't getting paid from, now I am monetized on TikTok. But at that time, I went straight into like doing music gigs. Like I would do music gigs after, on the weekends. That's how I was paying my rent. I started, so I had 3 incomes. I was Uber, and I was doing Uber full time. I was selling cologne, or I had just started selling cologne oils, on TikTok, which was a big hit at the time. And 3, I was doing music gigs. I was performing on the weekends. And I just remember during that time, I really didn't have the community that I had now, but I didn't steward that time well. And one thing I will say, like, if you are somebody like me and you're like, I'm just going to quit my job tomorrow, listen, you better be prepared, not just financially, but you need to be prepared emotionally, because freedom can be dangerous. If you don't know what to do with 8 extra hours of your day, if you don't know how to organize that, that could be a problem. Because I used to get up some days and go drive for Uber, or some days I just would get up and it would be 10 o'clock and I would, sit on my couch, look at my watch next, and it was 6:30 in the evening. I'd be like, what? Those days go by. And so I was talking to, I was taking an Uber from work this week, and I asked the Uber driver, I said, you like driving Uber full time? He's like, yeah. And I was like, man, I just remember those days. Like, if I can just be in a position to do that again, I probably would steward a little better. But anyway, and I even remember at that time, if I had the courage that I do now back in 2023, the minute that I got laid off, I probably would have relocated then. I probably would have went on ahead, but I didn't have the courage, so, but anyway, I say all that to say my biggest thing is I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get there. And I spend a lot of my times, watching. I love Gary Vee. If anybody that knows me know I love Gary Vee. And it's crazy because I really want to go to a networking event this summer. I'm like kind of over vacation. I do want to vacation too, but I really want to go to some type of networking conference or event that has to do with either music, e-commerce, selling online, or, content creation. I was going to go to VCon. Now, I heard about VCon so many days, but the year that I decided to go to VCon this year, it is of no more. But anyway. But the year that I decided to go to VCon this year, it is of no more. I think my battery's dying, so I'm going to get off here. But that's how I feel about 35, y'all. That's how I feel about 35. I'm going to make a plan. I did tell myself in a year, I'm saving up this year, getting my ducks in a row. In a year, I'm up out of here, y'all. But that's how I feel about 35. Yeah.